What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on for Mike here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, featuring that college football revamp as well. In a couple of episodes ago, we were able to finalize the field for the college football playoff, and we are now down to 12 teams that will have the ultimate opportunity to compete for a national championship. All 10 conferences are represented, bringing their best. We also have a couple of at-larges as well that were able to sneak in spite of not being able to win a conference title. And so today's episode is all about asking one question: who will be your national champion here in season number 4 of the NCSL series? It's going to be an exciting one, so I hope you guys are wrapped up and you are ready to go. And so with that said, I need you guys to go ahead and do a couple of things for me before we dive right into it. Smack that like button and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new to the channel. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive in to the first round games here in the college football playoff. Let's get it. So let's go ahead and get this college football playoff officially underway. And we'll get things started in Honolulu, Hawaii, although it's not so shining on the Oahu Island as we got some rain coming down. Hawaii, who did end up getting in as one of those at-large bids, well, they will be hosting the champions of the Mountain West, and that is going to be your Colorado Buffaloes this year. A big achievement for this Colorado squad, which I believe is their second playoff appearance in a row. Last year, they were bounced in this first round, and Colorado playing, or at least getting off to a better start than what we saw Colorado do back in year number 3. They're going to get the first points of the game, and first minute of the second quarter, Tommy Horton's going to make this catch in the corner of the end zone as well, courtesy of Lester Jones, throwing an absolute dime to that corner of the end zone. I mean, as a defender, not really much that you can do there. Threw it to a spot and threw it only to where his guy can get it. And it seemed like at this point, it seems like there was a real possibility for Colorado to run away with this game in the first half. But with less than 30 seconds to go, Colorado trying to run their no-huddle offense. Jones drops back, throws over the middle, and is going to throw this interception that could single-handedly keep Hawaii in this game. That was a big-time defensive play. Could have been starting out a 17-0 or even a 21-0 game. But instead, what we're looking at instead is Colorado only up by 2 touchdowns. And that's about to be cut in half because Lester Jones is going to throw another interception. This time, Leslie Atkins, the strong safety, he's able to take it all the way back to the crib. And that is going to be a touchdown for the Rainbow Warriors. So, just like that, your number 6 seeded Hawaii squad, they're right back in this game. However, they're not getting anything from their offense. And when I mean anything, I literally mean they are not getting a single thing from their offense at the moment. So, very next drive, Lester Jones does calm himself down, and Jones is going to throw his second touchdown of the day. And now Mike Pierre and company, they really got to get literally anything going. That is paramount to what they got going on right about now. But unfortunately, Mike Pierre's just struggling here in this one. 10 for 24, 57 yards. It's been an ugly day. This game should have been over by now, but Colorado did miss the field goal, so it's still a 2-possession game. Hawaii still also has 1 timeout to work with as well, and they won't use that timeout as they are magically able to work themselves into the end zone. Cedric Jones, fullback glove, getting some mention here. But even with that touchdown, Hawaii's got to get the onside kick, and the onside kick is not going to be in a very effective spot at all. Colorado recovers. They were in for a little bit of a ride, even though you see the total yard disparity. Colorado did dominate this game outside of the scoreboard, but Colorado only wins by a touchdown. Yet, the most important thing that we saw here today is that the Colorado Buffaloes are going to pull the upset off against number 6 Hawaii. They will move on to the next round. But with that being said, we're going to continue our action here as we see the ACC champions in Virginia Tech making their way down to Oxford, Mississippi. And Oxford, Mississippi is your host of the Sun Belt champions. So the first time we will see conference champions from 2 separate conferences getting together and ready to go at it at a moment's notice. Let's see what we got in store. Ole Miss, the number 7 ranked team in the nation, is going to have the first drive of the game. It's going to hand it off to Justin Fawerna, who runs through a couple of defenders and gets inside the 30-yard line. That particular run is going to get Justin Fawerna into the record book. He now holds the school record for most career rushing yards with over 4,400. You heard that right, 5,400 rushing yards over the span of a career. And depending on what happens, there is a real shot that Justin Fawerna can be the first Ole Miss running back to 6,000 rushing yards. So, momentous achievement, and doesn't hurt at all that Ole Miss is able to score on the opening drive. Can't say the same for Virginia Tech, though. Virginia Tech could not really move the ball in the first drive of the game, so we did have to punt this ball away, and then Ole Miss just creates the same results as the last time around, except it's going to be Neil Austin that will find the end zone for the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is going to take a 14-0 lead. However, Virginia Tech desperately trying to get back into the game as Alvarez wants to throw to the left, and that was tipped in the air by a defensive lineman, and it's going to be picked up by another defensive lineman who takes it all the way to the end zone. Touchdown Rebels. Patrick Reed is able to take it 60+ yards, and I am surprised that they are calling this an interception on the field. I will say that, because it did look like that could have touched the ground there, but the officials did take a look at it, and they said the play is going to stand. So, Ole Miss might have gotten a little bit of a break, not that they need it at the moment. Ole Miss, needless to say, is going to dominate this first half. Virginia Tech does tack on a field goal there towards the end. But that being said, Ole Miss coming out of the second half, they're looking to recreate that same first drive magic, and they will with another backup running back. Gerald Jackson is going to score for the Ole Miss Rebels, and it's a 25-point lead. We got a little bit of a game that's going to get out of hand here if Virginia Tech is not careful, if we're not already there. And oh baby, I think we are certainly there now, because that receiver was gone like a girl in a country song. Chad Heath just absolutely throwing that particular pass on the money. They tried to play a risky game with that, we're playing that press coverage, but did not work. That did not work at all. Actually backfired horribly, and then Charles Rhodes is going to find the end zone a second time. Later on in the quarter, this was a little bit of a scramble drill as Chad Heath was, throwing across his body. Still leads to those 6 points either way. It wasn't all terrible for Virginia Tech, though. The Hokies did end up playing this last quarter plus with a little bit more pride. They do eventually find the end zone. Marcus Arnold is going to get open on a 46-yard strike. But you already know what happens here. So Ole Miss wins convincingly 49-27. And so because of that, Ole Miss will now move on to the quarterfinals as well, where the Georgia Bulldogs, the champions of the SEC, are going to be patiently waiting for them in the next round. But with that being said, we continue our first round coverage with number 10, Northern Illinois, making their first playoff appearance in this series, as they were champions of the MAC Conference. Well, they will travel to Austin, Texas, to take on those champions of the Big 12 Conference, the number 9 ranked Texas Longhorns. And this did end up being your 9-8 matchup here. The winner of this game taking on number 1 USC in the quarterfinal. And in the first quarter or so, both teams were kind of just feeling each other out per se. Nothing really happening in that first quarter and a half. But with 6 minutes left to go in the second quarter, we finally do have a touchdown here. And it's not going to be who you think it's going to be. That's Carl Magnum really using that bind to his full advantage. People were trying to hit him hard, but nobody was really trying to bring him down necessarily. So Carl Magnum's going to get the first score of the game as Texas takes a 10-3 lead. But with 1 minute left, he will double dip here as well as Texas scores yet again. Carl Magnum needed a moment to really feel himself out, but Texas will take advantage, and it was a really well played first half for the Texas Longhorns. So much so that NIU finds itself down by 17. Could be another spot to where the game could get out of control, and that was even with that interception that we saw happen on the field. Even then, NIU couldn't do anything offensively, and Texas, on the other hand, well, they had no such problems here today. Texas is going to score once more. It's a 27-3 affair, and NIU, led by John Cross, well, they're going to need to really ride their quarterback now. They tried to do the balance offense thing for the first half or so, but at this point, you know, you're worried about just trying not to get ran out of the building. So they ride their quarterback a little bit more, and John Cross does find a receiver over the middle of the field. Finally gets a touchdown for NIU, something for the Husky fans to feel happy about, but Lance Tate cannot convert the 2-point conversion. So it does end up being an 18-point game still. A free possession difference. Could have been 2 if they managed to get the 2-point conversion. It would also help if NIU could get a stop on defense as well. Texas has been really efficient with moving the ball down the field, particularly in these first couple of drives in the second half. And it doesn't hurt that you have guys that are just plain tough. Texas kids are simply born different. NIU finding this out the hard way as John Cross trying to throw a one-on-one ball to the outside, but that is going to be intercepted as well. Not a bad decision there, but Michael Bass just ended up winning the one-on-one with relative ease. The receiver fell to the ground, and Texas is going to use that to dominate Northern Illinois in the first round of the playoff, as Texas will move on to take on USC. So with that said, there is only one more game left that we have in terms of your first round of college football playoff, and that is Navy, who pulled off the upset in the conference championship weekend. They would not have been here if it wasn't for that victory, because as you can see, even with that conference championship title, Navy is still unranked. So they're here as a 12 seed. They're taking on Minnesota, a 5 seed that is champions of the American Conference. And yet Navy is still hanging with them. Navy is looking to possibly shut the door, but a critical fumble keeps Minnesota alive. However, Minnesota cannot take advantage, and a couple of field goals for Navy does make this a 26-14 game. And now the shoe is on that other foot all of a sudden. If Navy can get a touchdown here, it's going to be barbecue chicken for Minnesota. And that would be a massive development, could create some havoc in the college football playoff. And there it is. Navy is going to find the end zone. Touchdown midshipmen. And they will go on to win 33-14, moving on to the quarterfinals. So, speaking of that quarterfinals, this is what your playoff bracket is now going to be looking like. Yes, we did have a couple of blowouts, but we did have a couple of upsets as well. Colorado and Navy, who are 11 and 12 seeds respectively, both move on to the quarterfinal, and now we see 8 teams that are one step closer to winning that national championship at the end of the day. Let's go ahead and see now if we can go ahead and see what happens in these quarterfinal games. Let's dive right back into it. So let's go ahead and jump right into the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. And we check back in on that Texas team that had that exhilarating and dominant win over Northern Illinois in the first round. Well, now they have a much tougher challenge laying ahead of them. They are taking on the number 1 team in the land, the USC Trojans, champions of the Pac-12 and number 1 in the nation, might I mention. And it took how good this USC team is. On the first play of the game, breaks 1 tackle, and he is gonna be gone! First play of the game, they are not messing around, and they are not finding out either. Touchdown, USC! And the Trojans, on the very first offensive play of the game, following the kickoff, is going to take it the distance. A 75-yard scamper into the end zone, and just like that, USC will have a 7-0 lead. But a metaphorical drive later for the Texas Longhorns gets them at about midfield. They're going to hand it off to their star back, Derek Hawthorne, and he's built for tough. We saw this in the first round, and he's still got some magic in him. Touchdown, Texas! And the Longhorns are going to answer directly right back. 4 minutes left to play here in the first quarter, and Derek Hawthorne shrugs off the entire USC defense off his back in order to tie this game up. Should be in for an exciting Peach Bowl. Now, Texas is still knotted up at 7 apiece, but USC has a chance to take the lead courtesy of the first turnover of the game. Trying to throw that out pattern, but stuck on him like cheese on macaroni pasta, and USC is able to get a field goal out of that. However, we got a big time throw here by Victor Spence, throwing down the sideline, and he's got his man Myron Jones in the end zone. Touchdown USC, and the Trojans are going to start pulling away here a little bit. Could be a little bit of a danger zone situation. The defending runners-up from season number 3 in danger of being eliminated as they're down by 13 going into the final quarter. They're going to run a jet sweep, though, to the outside. A nice run by Tanner Harris. Tanner Harris is able to get out of bounds and stop this clock for a little bit while they are waiting for this ball to be responded. 2nd and 12 coming up, though, as Carl Magnum's going to hand it off to another different wide receiver. They run a jet sweep again. This time it goes from the left-hand side all the way over to the right-hand side. And that run offense was in full form on this drive, as Lonnie Cameron's going to be able to eventually finish the drive. A touchdown for Texas. And after USC could not get points on its next couple of drives, the Longhorns have a chance to at least send to overtime. Magnum's going to scramble with 1:30 left to play. Gets across the 40-yard line. Gets dropped at about the 37. Nice job by that backup quarterback, able to hang on to the ball. And now Magnum's going to drop back again. Sets up the halfback screens. Able to get around the corner, down the sideline, and Lonnie Cameron is out of bounds. It eventually sets up this last second field goal attempt. They take the points. They decide to take the points. They're not going to risk it for the biscuit all that much. But with that being said, boys, we are going to have overtime on our hands. So 20-all game going into the overtime period. USC starts with the ball, and Terrell Salas is going to find the end zone from the backup quarterback Steve Robinson. Victor Spence did get a little bit shaken up on the first overtime drive. We'll watch out for his situation if Texas is able to respond with a touchdown of their own. They need a touchdown in order to force a second overtime. They will get that. They find Omar Jackson all by himself. It's an easy throw for Carl Magnum to make. and that's just too easy for the young quarterback. So we will have a second overtime after all. But because USC started with the ball in the first overtime, Texas will get things started with the second overtime. And it's not a great start as Carl Magnum gets dropped by Adam Hurst. Adam Hurst gave him the business there. And now Texas is in a third down situation. Magnum looks around, he's got plenty of time, fires over the middle, and finds Pierre Cohen in the end zone. Touchdown, Texas! The Longhorns are going to take the lead to get things started here in the second overtime, and now the pressure is applied to USC. Down to possibly their last play of the season with a backup quarterback. Steve Robinson got time, throws over the middle, and it's caught by Myron Jones. First down, USC, and the Trojans are going to remain alive. And on the very next play, a little toss play out to the left-hand side for Matt Sullivan. Touchdown, USC. And the Trojans will force a third overtime. So a triple overtime classic absolutely on our hands here, as now Steve Robinson still in the game. We did see Victor Spence did have a concussion. So the backup quarterback is in for the rest of the time. Took a big sack, and it's now a 2nd and 18. We'll see what he's got cooking. Throwing over the middle, and it's a dot! It's an absolute dime to Brian Jennings. This backup quarterback and Steve Robinson in the overtime periods. Bro, this guy came to play today. He is not afraid of that big moment by any means. But because they reached the third overtime, they have to go for the 2-point conversion. That is good. So USC does convert the 2-point conversion. Now it's back to Texas. Hell of a match going on between these two teams, both worthy of a semifinal appearance, but there only is one spot. And after a touchdown by Derek Hawthorne to pull the Longhorns within a couple of points, they need this 2-point conversion. 2 yards separates them from a fourth overtime. We're going to scramble with Carl Magnum, but he's dropped. He's dropped before he reaches the end zone, and it's game over. USC is going to win the ball game. And the number 1 team in the nation, they had their scare. They absolutely had their scare versus the Texas Longhorns. But at the end of the day, USC is able to pull it out. We'll see if any of these other games in the quarterfinals, however, can live up to what we just witnessed in that quarterfinals matchup, as now Navy looks to take on Ohio State here in the Rose Bowl. The Tournament of Champions continues here. The darlings of this tournament, Navy, looking to take on Ohio State, which after winning the Big Ten Championship, not only clinching their way into this college football playoff, but also getting a first-round bye. So that's why we did not see Ohio State in that first round. However, Navy is looking to continue this Linsanity run that is happening right before our eyes, because not only is Navy continuing to put these bigger and better teams on surprise, but what we have also witnessed is Navy is running Ohio State off the field right now. This could turn into a 24-point game real quick, and it does. Jacob Hodge finds the end zone for Navy, and although they do miss the extra points, it doesn't hurt them in the grand scheme of things, because here we are in this fourth quarter. It's 30-10, and looking for one more touchdown, they'll get it from Jacob Hodge. So another stunner here as Navy is able to topple Ohio State 51-17. What a shocker here. And Navy will await the winner of this very next matchup. Ole Miss is looking to take on the University of Georgia in an old SEC battle. Ole Miss, since then, with the geographical realignments mandated by the NCSL, has moved to the Sun Belt, but it should be one with huge regional ramifications for sure. Ole Miss looking to get the first drive of the game underway here, as Ole Miss is going to set up just a little halfback screen for Justin Verlerna, who did end up setting the school record for most rushing yards in a career in that first round win against Virginia Tech. And they are looking to contain this rushing attack, but that simply did not happen at all on the first drive of the game, as Chad Heath is able to complete the read option, makes the right decision, and the Rebels will take a 7-0 lead. However, later in the first quarter, senior custom Frederick Mueller, he's going to find his receiver, Todd Neely, on the slants, and he's able to run away from the Ole Miss defense long enough to get it all knotted up against. It does remain a very tight, a very contested game all throughout the first half. Ole Miss does have a chance, though, to possibly do a little bit of double dipping, because Ole Miss actually did defer to the second half. So if they can score here and start with the ball, it could be trouble time, and then they cannot afford to have a breakdown like that. Charles Rhodes was just running all by himself for the majority of that post pattern, and that was just simply too easy of a throw. Touchdown, Ole Miss, and the Rebels will take a 10-point lead into the half. Very first play of the second half, though, as we go into the locker room, we'll see who's been able to make better adjustments, and it just seems like the Georgia defense continues to struggle solving that million-dollar question. How do you contain the run game? Because, oh baby, this running game is absolutely going to work. Specifically, Justin Verlerna, who is averaging 12 yards a carry in this game. And hey, if it's not broke, why fix anything? They're just going to keep it on the ground until Georgia is able to figure it out, or force a third and long, second and long situation. That's the problem for this Georgia defense, it seems like. Jake Jacobs is just not getting any production on those first down attempts, and it's showing on the field. Another touchdown for Ole Miss. This time it's the fullback, Obi Graham, able to find the end zone for the Rebels, and the lead is starting to grow. A 17-point lead going through, as Georgia is able to get a field goal on the next possession, but they really need some stops. They need some stops, as well as need this offense to really start heating up. Late in the third quarter, it's another run up the left-hand side. He's able to get some blocks down the sideline, and it's going to be brought down at about the 25-yard line. But the first time that we saw Gerald Jackson, it just seems like all of the running backs for Ole Miss just getting involved today. And even if they can get him in the backfield, it doesn't help that they don't have great tackling today either. Chad Heath should have been a deer in headlights. We had him stone cold, and it didn't even work. It did not work anyways. So another touchdown is scored, and then you got Justin Verlerna finally finding the end zone. Somehow he did not have a single touchdown in the entire game. And with 6 minutes left, down by 28, Frederick Mueller just trying to create a miracle. And so he tries to step up in the pocket, but gets hit from behind. And that is going to be turned over. This was the only turnover that we saw in this particular game. And of course, Ole Miss is going to completely capitalize. And that's a perfect microcosm of this game. That ball should have gotten to Charles Heath, because Chad Heath, he was dead to rights in the pocket, breaks the tackle, throws a dot to Charles Rhodes, and it was simply not Georgia's day today. Ole Miss is going to be able to pull this upset off in the quarterfinals, so we'll see them in the semis. Their opponent actually might be pending. So, I actually misspoke there earlier, so Navy is going to take on USC. But the winner of this game right here between Colorado and Miami, they will be the ones that will actually take on the Ole Miss Rebels in the semifinals of the college football playoff after all. Now, Colorado, we saw them play against Hawaii. They were in a close one against the Rainbow Warriors, but were able to pull it out anyways. Now they take on Miami, not even the champions of the SEC. This is actually the other at-large team. So far, at-large teams are 0-1. Colorado looking to deal a death blow to the other at-large team that is in the college football playoff. But Miami is a little bit more well-balanced than that Hawaii team that snuck into the playoff this year because, man, they have some talent that is absolutely littered all over this roster, and that was evident late in the first quarter as Miami is able to win pretty convincingly in the trenches. Running back doesn't get tackled until, well, it was just too late anyway. So Lester Jones got some work to do. Did not play that great in the win against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, but Lester Jones is looking to bounce back. But trying to set up a screen, though, and it gets read like a book. And oh, baby, is this an exciting chapter, at least for the Miami Hurricanes, intercepting the screen and taking it all the way back to the end zone. Touchdown, Miami. And that was a big-time swing. That was one of those plays where, because 85 had some room to work through, if he was able to actually catch that screen. But good job reading this particular play, and instead of Colorado potentially having the lead right now, Miami now has a double-digit lead. Later on in the second quarter, Miami's looking to top things off here in the first half, and they will with Sean Campbell, who's able to find the end zone for the second time today. So Miami is simply outworking this Colorado Buffaloes team as Lester Jones looks to scrape them back to a one-score game before the half. Jones looking to throw over to the right-hand side. It's a one-on-one matchup, but it's well covered, and it will end up being intercepted. This could have some serious trouble, and oh, baby. William Young, if he was able to get away from that offensive lineman, he was going to be gone like a girl in a country song, man. It was literally there. But alas, Miami has a chance to score, though. 1 minute left to play. Rodney Walker throwing to the left-hand side and finds Cedric Ward in the end zone. Touchdown, Hurricanes. And Rodney Walker has not had very many chances to throw the ball today, but when he has, oh baby, has he been absolutely effective. 28-6 will now be your score as Colorado just trying to get into the halftime locker room at this point, licking their wounds, and oh boy, not only are they going to have some wounds, they are going to have some scars here in this second half. For the second half, after all, actually Miami is very fortunate to not be able to come away with any points as they miss a field goal, creates one more possession for Colorado, and the Colorado Buffaloes are trying to make something shake here. A 65-yard reception, and so Lester Jones quickly trying to get his guys to the line. 18 seconds left. They choose not to spike the ball. Lester throws to the left-hand side, and he's open. Wide but naked open is Tommy Horton, who finds the end zone for the Colorado Buffaloes, and it sets a school record for most passing touchdowns in a single season. That is his 31st passing touchdown of the season. But they want to make it a clean 14-point game, so they go for the 2-point conversion. Leslie trying to make something happen, decides to scramble, but it's no good pending the penalty, and it looks like the penalty is against Colorado. So even if he found his way into the end zone, the 2-point conversion would have not even counted anyways. So Colorado did go into the locker room down by 16 points. They got to play a lot better here in the second half in order to just make this a game. Because if Miami scores here again, that could be a serious issue. And sure enough, Rodney Walker, no one is accompanying Rodney Walker there. And that was easily evident. Easy touchdown for the young quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. And so Colorado's dreams are ultimately dashed. Miami is going to win this one 41-12. And that does mean we'll have a big-time matchup between them and Ole Miss. And speaking of those future matchups, here's now what the bracket looks like. Now, we've had more blowouts here with the exception of the USC-Texas game. So, we got USC, the #1 team in the nation, Ole Miss and Miami, who are both from that southeastern part of the country. Then all the way up in Maryland, you have the Darlings, Navy, coming in unranked, and yet here they are 2 games away from winning a national championship game. So with that said, let's go jump back into the action. Let's see who is going to be in this national championship game when it's all said and done. So the Cinderella Darling is just now 1 game away for competing for the national championship game. But can they get past the #1 team in the land, the USC Trojans? This is going to be their biggest test yet. But late in the first quarter, the Navy midshipmen, they drive themselves into the red zone, and they got a chance to actually take the lead with 1 minute left to play in that first quarter. And sure enough, they will. Leslie Cole finds the end zone. It remains a tight affair throughout the night. However, USC, that talent on the depth chart, well, it could only be contained for so long. 16-10 ends up being your score going into the final quarter. Can Navy pull off the improbable here in the Orange Bowl? USC on a 3rd and 5. Victor Spence drops back, fires, and gets Brian Jennings in the end zone. Touchdown, USC! The Spartans of USC will take the lead, and it's now a chance for them to also get a 2-point conversion as well, which they will with Victor Spence. The USC Trojans want to be a part of that national championship opportunity. Victor Spence looking for another score on another red zone drive, and it looks like it is becoming more apparent that this Navy squad is starting to run out of gas. It's been a long run for Navy, and it's why it's so hard to win 3-4 games, especially in all of those games you are ending up being an underdog. They certainly were an underdog in this one, and so it does seem like the party is going to come to an end. USC will go to the national championship game as they'll win 45-17 against our favorite Darlings. However, unfortunately, the other semifinal game that I did originally record did end up getting corrupted, but Ole Miss did end up beating Miami convincingly. It was 34-6. But with that said, we now jump into the national championship game. Ole Miss making it to that national title game as a 7 seed, but they face the same test that we just saw Navy had to endure. The #1 team in the land, who wants to hold the crystal ball, who wants to hold the crown, as early in the first quarter, it is Ole Miss that will actually come through and get the first salvo out in this national championship game. Ole Miss is able to take that 7-0 lead. However, USC looks to respond as Victor Spence sends somebody in motion. Spence is looking around, firing over to the left-hand side, and it's fired in triple coverage. And Victor Spence makes a rare mistake, one that could have massive ramifications, as Kevin Paul is able to get his hands on the ball, picked off, and Ole Miss is going to take over an absolutely beautiful field position, one in which Ole Miss will fully take advantage of as Neil Austin is able to find the end zone. Touchdown for the Rebels, and Ole Miss will quickly jump to a 14-0 lead. Later on in the first quarter, USC needing some points in the worst way after the tough start. We got a big throw for Victor Spence, though, over to his favorite receiver, and Myron Jones. They connect for 41 yards, and it sets up a goal line situation. We're on the very next play. Matt Sullivan is going to find the end zone. to allow the Trojans to get right back into this game. That being said, 14-7 is still your score, and Ole Miss has not been stopped thus far, and that could very well continue as Lewis Kelly gets loose for a 28-yard scamper. It eventually leads to a field goal for the Rebels, as they will end up getting stalled out later on in the drive. So now 17-7 is your score, as now USC does have an opportunity to get it back to an even tighter ball game. We're going to get this down to just a field goal. However, Victor Spence gets absolutely walloped there. However, USC is able to get itself together and answer back to the previous field goal that was had. And now it's 17-10. Fourth quarter for USC. The Trojans needing some points now in the worst way. Spence fires to the left-hand side. He's got a man who's still on his feet. He breaks some more tackles, and Tony Mitchell finds his way into the end zone. Touchdown, USC! The Trojans are right back into the game, and it's just a field goal game here in the national championship game. Punch for punch between two teams worthy of a national title. But those would be the final points that end up being scored, as Ole Miss, the Rebels of Ole Miss, are going to hang on by a thread, and they will win the national championship. Ole Miss, the Rebels, coming in as a 7 seed. They come in as a team that maybe, was expected to make the playoff, but was not expected to make it all the way this far. And USC will end up getting shocked. Oh my word. So Ole Miss is going to be your national champions here in season number 4. A dream ride for the Rebels, especially in this postseason, one that they have dominated throughout this episode. And so a season will officially be concluded. So that does finish up here for the NCSL. It was an exciting college football playoff. I do apologize again for what happened to that Cotton Bowl being corrupted, so you didn't get to see that. But Ole Miss did win that national championship. They won it fair and square. And now we look forward to the offseason, where improvements are tried to be made. Next episode, we will have that full offseason ready for you guys. I might have an update in regards to this series in the next episode as well, so you're going to want to make sure that you want to tune in for that and check out the entire thing. With that being said, this is John J. Gaming on the mic, appreciating you watching the presentation of the college football playoff. I am going to sign out, but I'm hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody, and if you haven't done so yet either, hit that like and subscribe button, as I would truly appreciate that. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.